Hi everybody, welcome to Bad Barry's Bar. Good to see you again. Hope you're all keeping well, and I'll give you some of my laughter's the best medicine, you know, the medicine for coronavirus. Well, today I want to talk about a couple of jokes about flying, and then I'll give you a little anecdote about when I was a boy during World War II. Now, the first story concerns a French air ace, Francois. And Francois was a great air ace and by his own admission, the world's greatest lover. Well, he's sitting in an outside cafe on the Champs-Élysées one day. It's pretty crowded, and a beautiful girl came in and she looked around, no seats, so she sat down next to him and said, may I join you, sir? He said, asseyez-vous. So she sat down and they got chatting and had a few drinks, and then he said, would you like to come back to my apartment for some coffee after dinner? He said, I'm just at the back of the Champs-Élysées here. So they go back to his place, you see, and they have a few drinks, and one thing leads to another, and they finish up in bed. Well, they start cuddling and that, and he's about to kiss her. He said, just a moment, mademoiselle, he said, I am the big air ace. He said, and I am the world's great lover. And he said, before I kiss these beautiful red lips of yours, I must anoint them with some red wine. So he gets some wine out and he anoints her lips and he licks her lips and they start kissing, you see. Well, they progress a bit and he goes down to kiss her breast and he said, such beautiful white breasts, he said, as the world's great lover, he said, I must first anoint them with the white wine before we carry on. So he pours some white wine on, you see, and then down he goes. Well, then he goes down to her private parts, you see, and he said, oh, he said, I'm the world's great lover, he said, and before I do anything here, he said, I must anoint this with some brandy. So he pours some brandy on, then he gets a lighter out and lights it, poof. She said, what the hell are you doing? He said, I am Francois, the big air ace, and when I go down in flames. Well, enough about Francois. Now there's another big air ace, and he's Polish, Nikolai Paluski. And Nikolai got out of Poland when Poland collapsed. You know, Poland was attacked on both fronts by Russia and Germany, collapsed in 6 weeks. So Nikolai, he's asked to give a talk on the BBC about his experience. He said, well, he said, I got out of Poland in my aeroplane. I flew out before we collapsed, and I managed to get to England. And he said, I'm a fighter pilot, so I joined the Royal Air Force. And he said, so I was involved in the Battle of Britain. And he said, I would tell you one of my experiences, he said. This is a typical sortie. He said, and a sortie, by the way, is when the plane takes off, goes into combat, comes back, refuels, rearms, and it's ready for another sortie. So he said, I will tell you what happened on the sortie I was on, he said. He said, I took off in my Spitfire, and we get to the cruising height and we form a formation, and then we get the directions over the phone, where is the enemy? He said, so we fly to the enemy, and I see these aeroplanes, he said, and all of a sudden, he said, I see this German Fokker, and he said, I dive on this Fokker, but he's a good pilot. He slides to one side and I miss, but I go down. I said, this Fokker is not going to escape me. So I follow him down and we do a lot of twists and turns and combat. And in the end, I really got this Fokker in my sights. I gave him a burst. Well, at this point, the narrator that's running this, he said, ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, he said, that the Fokker is a German aircraft. And Nikolai said, oh no, but this Fokker was a Messerschmitt. Okay. Now, talking of aircraft, it takes me back to when I was a young lad during the Second World War. And just to give a bit of background, my father volunteered for the Royal Air Force in 1938, a year before the war started. He said, there's going to be a war and I'm going to pick the service that I want to go in, so I'm going to volunteer, and he went in the Air Force. Well, we're Londoners, we came from London, and when the Blitz started, we moved out of London down to the south coast of Bognor Regis, a little town on the south coast near Portsmouth. And what a hot spot that was, it turned out to be. We had 4 airfields around us, Ford, Tangmere, a big American bomber base, and Portsmouth. So all during the war, long after the time when the Germans stopped mounting the big raids on London, Coventry, Liverpool and Birmingham, we were getting what they call hit and run raids. The Germans would come across the channel low level to get under the radar, and they would bomb and try to destroy the 4 airfields around us. So all during the war, we had dogfights going on, and as kids, as boys, none of us, I can say in all honesty, we were never frightened of the war. I have no feeling of fear ever. I guess that's just ignorance is bliss. But we would play games, and of course we had all the usual games, there's cops and robbers and cowboys and Indians, and now we've got Germans and Brits. It's really all the same game, but it just had different names. So we used to play these games, and one day we were playing in the street, my buddies and I, and we lived in a street with just, ordinary houses, two-storey houses, and the roads were empty because there were no cars on the road. There was such a huge fuel shortage. Well, we were playing and we heard this noise, and we looked up, and a German Messerschmitt 109 flew down our street over the houses so close that to this day I can remember seeing the pilot's face in the cockpit. It was that close. Now, he didn't open up with his machine guns on us at all, but maybe he was out of ammunition. But anyway, he went by, zoom, and a few seconds later, zoom, a Spitfire was on his tail. He was hightailing out across the channel to get home to France in safety. But I will remember that ME 109 as clear as this day. I could almost draw a picture. And yet, as I say, it was fun to us because we, as boys, if ever there was a crash of a plane near us, the big thing was to run out to where the crash was and get there before the police to try and get souvenirs, pieces of wreckage, piece of an engine, bullets or whatever. And all of us, we all had souvenirs, shrapnel, empty bullet cases and so on. There was a lot of swapping going on. And in fact, I even had the joystick out of an ME 109, a Messerschmitt 109. If I had that now, it'd be worth a lot of money, I'm sure. But, I swapped it for something somewhere down the line, cigarette cards or something. What an idiot. So, being a kid during the war in England, really, unless you were right in the height of the Blitz and you got bombed out, for a lot of us, the war was just something that went on in the background, and it gave us a means of having some fun, Well, that's enough of my experience. I'll tell you some more another day. I've had a few crazy experiences one way or another. Thanks for watching. Press the old like button and press subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything, and then you get more of my chat every day coming on your email, blocking your email up. Stay safe. Bye.